Hey everyone, my name is Dave. Welcome to NTD Racing. This behind me is Lefty, our truck that just finished 1,200 miles of the Baja 1000. We broke a ton of stuff, including our lights. But first, let me ask you a quick question. Have you been paying attention to what's going on at Harbor Freight? Have you walked in there recently and really paid attention to the quality of their new tools they've got? Whatever they're doing there, they're doing it right. And so we are going to replace the lights on our truck with their RoadShock Edge lights. Some of them will be 4 LEDs and some of them will be 6 LEDs. And what I want to do is I want to just show you what's going to show up in the box and all the parts. And then I want to go over the features, and I think that you will really be blown away with the quality of these lights. I will tell you, I've put all kinds of different brands of lights on all of our trucks. These are the best lights, and you get the most in the package of any lights that I've purchased in the past. Let's go ahead and take a look at these lights. Be a judge for yourself. See what you think. I think you're gonna like them. Now that we got this thing unboxed, I have a couple different levels of assembly. Let's just take a look at the features I really like about this light. First off, the electrical connection. I don't know what this thing is called. I have had these on a couple other lights and they are completely bulletproof. You're not gonna have any problems with water intrusion or any kind of electrical failure with these connectors. Unlike weather pack, these things are amazing. I think they're really, really good. You get 3 different cover options with this light. You can go with a amber, which is included in the package, and it's a really nice looking amber. It connects on there really well. You can go with the protective lens cover, which you might be running if you're not using your lights or something like that, and it has a protective film over it to keep that thing from getting scratched while it's getting shipped. Or you can run it with just the clear lens, and I'll show you what those look like here in a second. Some other things I really like are the connecting hardware, and where I think some of the other lights I've had use the button head Allen screws. I hate those. I just don't think that they're durable, and I always lose Allen screws. I don't lose my hex sockets and those kinds of things. These are 13 millimeter on the larger 6 LEDs. On the 4 LEDs, these are going to be 10 millimeter. And once they're on there with the lock washer, the other washer, and then also that Loctite that's on there, these things aren't going anywhere. And this bracket is really impressive. We're looking at, I would say, at first I thought maybe an 1/8 inch bracket. I'm calling this probably 10 gauge. It is probably one of the beefiest brackets I've seen on any light that I have owned. And then finally, just taking a look at the way that the back of this thing is made. It is a aluminum casing. It's going to dissipate heat really well. If you also look at how deep those bolts go into the casing, you're going to get a ton of purchase from these bolts going in there. You're not going to strip one out. I was pounding these things in with my impact wrench, and there's going to be no problem as far as durability of these lights. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 3 different lighting modes that they have for these lights on the race truck as we start coming up with a game plan on how we're going to build some light bars. Let's go ahead and test these things out. And just for reference, in case you're replacing, say, Baja design lights, the wiring harness for these are exactly the same. Anyway, the way that we will run these in our race truck is anytime that there is power on our truck, the amber lights are going to come on, which will give us excellent visibility from other trucks if we're digging ourselves out or doing any kind of maintenance or something like that. And then there's 2 modes. There is a low beam mode, which in Mexico, in the United States you can't use it, but in Mexico we will use these for driving on the highways and they're required. But then if you really need to see far down range, we got a high mode, which turns all of the LEDs on and make it super bright. Let's go ahead and figure out how to make a really durable light bar for the bumper and over the top of the truck to make sure that this truck is ready to race the Mint 400. Here is the plan. We're going to put a light bar right across the top of the truck here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing over here. Some cleanup items to start with. I said 2 things wrong. This is a Deutsch connector. I think they're the best connectors you can get for any kind of wiring. And then this thing right here. I measured them. They're 0.1875. This is 3/16 still. I think they beat everybody. They just went big on everything. Let's take a look at how I'm going to mount this light bar, what I'm going to make. I have 1.5 by 1.5 square tube here, which will go basically the full length across the front of the truck. We're putting 8 lights across the front. And what I want to do is I want to kind of keep them grouped as close as I possibly can together. So what I will do is I have them separated just enough to where I can get my 10 millimeter in there. I can loosen these things up and I can either adjust them or whatever, but they'll be mounted from the back. The way that these things are going to mount is I will actually have them kind of off the back and set low, so you really don't see the mounting hardware so much. And what you see is a light and the bar, which I think will be a nice, clean, tight look on the back. And then the final part is that the front of the truck is curved. There's no straight parts of that. So we're going to go ahead and use this roller right here to see if we can't roll the exact same radius into this 1.5-inch square tube. And then we're going to make some brackets on Fusion 360. We'll be cutting those out on the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR. Let's get to all that fabrication. Okay, let's take a look at the plan to put this whole thing together. This will be about the spacing that I will use between the two lights, and there's just enough room to kind of get a wrench in there, get it on these nuts if I want to adjust the lights as far as the angle goes. Now, how they're put together in here is, so I got those plates I just cut out on my CNC table, the plasma table, and I'm separating them with this little piece of wood here, and I got a little center mark there. This is the center of this tube, so the first two are going to go, and this is about 3 inches apart for this this piece right here, and that's what I'm going to use to set all of them. So I'm going to weld those. I'm going to put the piece of wood over here and weld those, and I kind of go all the way down the line until they're all tacked into position. And then to set the height just right, what I've used is I've always, every time I cut on the plasma table and I have scraps that kind of come out, I take them and I use them to stack. So these are 3/16, just basically pieces of scrap here. I stacked them up, and that's going to set that light at just the right height above the bar. So while it's on there, I can adjust the light down slightly, but it keeps it really close to that bar, and I think makes it a really good look. And then what I'm welding with today is from Harbor Freight. Did I say I think Harbor Freight is totally up in its game? This is the Vulcan OmniPro 220. It is an amazing welder. I have 2 other Miller MIG welders, and this one is my go-to MIG welder. I don't usually use this one for TIG welding. I know they have one specifically for TIG welding. I usually do use my my Miller over there, but this one's a great MIG welder. So let's get to it. All right, like I said, I'm not the best MIG welder in the world, but totally happy with what you get out of the OmniPro 220. I do think it is the easiest out of the box to start using a MIG welder I've ever used, so I'm super happy with the quality of that. Now we're going to get to the front light bar with these 6 LED lights from Harbor Freight, but first, check these out. They just showed up. 7 wiring harnesses. Super cool. Let me show you what's in the box. All right, so taking a look at these connectors, you got the Deutsch connectors right here. I already said I really like these, and they do work with other lights that I have owned. All that you have to do with this whole setup is hook up a positive and hook up a negative to your battery. It goes through its own fuse, so if you're worried about wiring all those things up, this thing takes care of all those things for you through a relay, which is required for lights with pulling this much power, and then also its own switch, which has a rocker high beam, and then a low beam. Really nice, and it all comes in, I think, a pretty reasonably priced package. You can check out a link for these in the description below. All right, no Metallica for this little build montage. What you're looking at is me using what's called the Hulk. It is a tube roller. It's made by Swag Off-Road, and I am bending 2-inch by 2-inch square tube 120 wall
pretty impressive what this thing is doing to this tube. Link for that in the description below. It takes you to our Amazon page, which we're affiliates for them. We get a couple bucks and it doesn't cost you anything more to buy some stuff from them. After that, I get into Fusion 360 to make brackets, and then I throw it on my Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR. And as a fabricator, I will tell you there's no tool combination out there I think is better than a little bit of CAD, and I like Fusion 360 and a plasma table, and I really like the Crossfire Pro or the Crossfire XR. I'm an affiliate for them also. I think I've sold about 175 tables, and no one has ever complained. They are amazing machines. If you would like one, check out the link in the description below. Code NTD Racing will get you $100 off at checkout.
All right, I think the light bars are looking pretty killer now. They got some paint on them. Just ended up putting a tie rod in here so that we can adjust the up and down of this entire light bar, even when we're on the move, and that can be from the navigator. Now we're going to figure out where we're going to put all of the electrical. And there's, when you're running 14 lights, 7 individual circuits, it's looking like a octopus kind of exploded in your garage. So this is what I kind of came up with, and I'm going to be mounting this right above the feet of the navigator. You can see I have the 7 relays across the front. I ended up cutting and resplicing the power and then grounds into this fuse panel. It'll be 30 amps for the 7 different panels there, and I'll probably just throw some 10 amps in for the these will be the amber lights, which will be on anytime the car is on, and these will be on obviously anytime the switches are on. And so these things will have to fish through the car, and where those are going to go is going to be, like I said, here's the navigator's compartment, and right up above where his feet are, there's plenty of room in there. So we just cut out a tab that's going to go ahead and mount to this tube right here, come across and mount to this support tube. It'll be behind this firewall, protected from all the spray off the tire. 4 of the harnesses will go out the top, up the roll cage to the top light bar. 3 are going to come out the front, all the way to the front light bar, and then all of the switches are going to come out the side and up the tunnel and end up right over here to a new switch panel that I'm going to have to cut on the plasma table.
Well, once again, it seems like most of my builds come down to a lot of use of Fusion 360 and the Crossfire XR. But ask yourself, how long would it take for you to make a quality switch panel or have it sent off to somebody else to cut this thing for you and have it sent back? Well, it takes me about 20 minutes, and then I just grab a scrap piece of metal, throw it into the Crossfire XR, and cut out this beautiful panel, and it works awesome. With that, I'm going to give you a couple techniques here on how to make the Harbor Freight switches, rocker switches, work with your newly cut switch panel. And once again, the link is in the description below for this amazing Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR.
Okay, so I am sitting inside Lefty putting together the switch panel. And here are the switches that come with the wiring kit. I like everything about the wiring kit. I think these switches are pretty cool. However, there are some things I think that maybe could have thought out a little bit better, is how do you get this switch into this hole right here? And so 2 options, and I'm going to go with option B, but option 1 would be removing all of these electrical connections and kind of keeping track of where they go. Not that big a deal. However, I pulled one of them out, and actually I think I separated one of the connectors inside here, so I got to figure out how to fix that. But option B is to take this thing apart. I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and it's just not that big a deal. It comes apart pretty easily, so let me show you what I'm doing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull back these clips right here, and it's going to separate the switch right here. This will be the top piece, and this will be the bottom piece. And this piece can sleeve in there, and then all the wires will stay connected to the bottom piece. But first, let's take a look at what's inside there. All right, so now that this thing has been separated, let's go ahead and take it off. And you can kind of take a look at what is on the inside. And one of these springs is actually in the wrong place. So first off, this rocker switch is the piece that's going to sleeve in there. Realize this white piece right here, it could fall out, not a big deal. You throw it right back in. It's just in that's pretty easy to deal with. But this right here is the part where you don't want to have it get messed up. So you have 3 springs in here, and you got these 2 rockers. If I dump this thing over, all these pieces will come out. So you just got to kind of remember which order they go in. This spring right here, you can kind of see is out. It actually should go right in there. I'll move that here in a second. But I'm gonna set this thing aside. I'm gonna make sure it stays oriented this way while I'm waiting to put the switch in. Okay, so the switch is just gonna go right down and clip inside of its hole. Sure enough, when I did that, that little white piece, which is that rocker, came out. So that's just kind of goes right back in, and that's kind of goes with the switch. And that's what moves back and forth when you're moving that rocker switch.
Well, I must not have the video clip from putting it together, but basically what I did is I held the rocker switch panel horizontal, and then I made sure that basically the bottom of the switch with all the wires still connected was vertical, and I pressed that in, which didn't allow all those little pieces to fall out. And then it worked, and here is the payoff. Here's what it looks like when it's all done.
All right, I totally love the way that the Harbor Freight lights look on the truck. And you know, I've owned all kinds of lights. You see over there on Honcho, we're running the aux beam lights, which I think are a great, budget option. I really feel like for any price, in my experience, Harbor Freight gives all lights a total run for their money. And I can't wait to test them at the Mint 400 later this year. Will be at Vegas to Reno. And then also we'll be back for the Baja 1000 to test all these things out. And if something doesn't work, I'll be the first to tell you. That being said, we're getting ready for the Mint 400. Check out our team bios. We've got some really cool folks that are going to be in the truck. And while you're there, check out our merch store where we're always adding hats and shirts and those kinds of things. I think you'll like the designs, and I really like the quality of the hoodies that we have now. Go ahead and check those out. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourself.